Tampa Bay is like no place else.
Wait, you can't recycle the bag. You have to throw it away.
Proper recycling keeps it that way for everyone. Bags tangle in machinery and can bring sorting efforts to a halt.
No bags.
Trash the bags and keep our recycling program moving forward.
No, Mom, look, no plastic bags.
Do your part to keep our recycling bag-free. Trash the tanglers or return them to participating retailers. For more information, visit tampabayrecycles.org.
Good morning and welcome to Hillsborough County Transportation Planning Organization meeting for Wednesday, August 9th, 2023. Let us please stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please. Here.
I'm going to repeat that. My mic is now on. Commissioner Myers?
Here.
Mayor Ross?
Here.
Commissioner Owen? Commissioner Wastel?
Here.
Commissioner Cohen?
Here.
Commissioner Kemp?
Here.
Councilmember Clendenin?
Here.
Councilmember Hurtak?
Here.
Councilmember Maniscalco? Here. Mayor Kilton?
Here.
Board Member Vaughn?
Here.
Paul Anderson? Charles Klug? Gina Dew?
Here.
Greg Slater?
Here.
Scott Drainville?
Here.
Planning Commissioner Soraya?
Here.
We do have an in-person quorum, and let me just double check. I do not show any board members online.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like to read into the records a memorandum from Commissioner Owen. Dear Chair Gwen Myers, I will be unable to attend the TPO board meeting tomorrow, August 9th, 2023, due to sickness. Please read the reason for my absence into the record. Okay, thank you. And at this time, we'll have the approval of the minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion for approval and second. Gail, can you please record the votes? Or do we, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
That motion is carried. Next, we will have our public comments on the agenda. I think we have one person to speak, Rick Fernandez.
Chair, I'll defer.
Okay, thank you so much. Then we'll move right into committee reports and advance comments. Rick Fernandez and Gina Torres. Rick, you up again?
I am. Sorry about that. Can't get rid of me. Can you hear me all right?
Yes. Good morning.
Okay. Good morning, and good morning to all of you. For the record, I'm Rick Fernandez, chair of your CAC. The CAC met on August the 2nd, 2023. We convened at 6 p.m. and adjourned shortly after 8 p.m. We had excellent attendance. At the start of the meeting, we had 14 persons in the room and 4 virtual. In-room quorum was met and virtual participation was permitted. We had one action item to consider for this meeting. The committee unanimously approved a resolution by a vote of 18-0 regarding partner agency participation in the CAC process. You may recall previous discussion related to this issue. A version of the resolution was first discussed several months ago at committee and reported to this board. The resolution is intended to encourage agencies to send well-informed representatives to CAC meetings to present and support requested committee action. A final version of the resolution is being prepared for the chair's signature and will be forwarded to the TPO board and affected agencies in short order. Under new business, we considered and passed a motion by a vote of 15-1 requesting CAC advisory participation in the selection of our new TPO executive director. I addressed this question during the policy and interview committee meeting at 8:30 this morning, and I suspect it'll come up later in the meeting as well. We would like the opportunity to meet with and interview the finalists in a CAC meeting setting, preferably. This would allow us the information needed to carry out our role as an advisory committee in support of this critical hiring decision. Given the current timeline, it is suggested that finalists be invited to meet with the CAC during our September 2023 regular meeting. And as an editorial comment and somewhat mirroring what I said to the policy committee earlier this morning, the CAC role is, as I understand it, twofold. One, we act as an advisory group to this board. Two, we serve as an educational conduit to the communities that we represent. I consider both of those roles very important. Against that backdrop, the hiring of a new executive director is certainly one of the most consequential decisions and activities of this board, frankly, since I joined the CAC back in 2017. I would think as a matter of policy, you would want your CAC to be involved in this process. And it should be clear to you, hopefully by now, that we want to be involved. I hope you'll embrace this request as you move forward during your meeting today. Under old and unfinished business, staff provided us with a deeper review of the Hillsborough County bicycle network evaluation, specifically methodology used in that evaluation. This was intended to supplement an action item presented by staff to us in June of 2023. When presented as an action item, the CAC did not approve this item for recommendation to the board. We did not take supplemental action last week, although we certainly appreciated Wade Reynolds' supplemental presentation. The item is before you for action this morning. It's your action item 8 Bravo. Regarding your action item 8 Alpha, the Fowler Avenue studies and TPO letter of commitment or comment, excuse me, this item was before your CAC as a status report in June. We deferred the report because of time constraints. Our time was almost totally absorbed by consideration of the tip during that meeting. There is therefore no CAC advisory on that item. Finally, your CAC held a voluntary workshop on July 12, 2023. This was not an official meeting in the sense that attendance was required. It was not. Nonetheless, we had a good attendance and took opportunity to discuss the 2050 LRTP revenue forecasting and the MOU on creating a unified Tampa Bay MPO. Those interested in these topics are encouraged to review the YouTube video of that meeting. A copy of these remarks has been provided to the Secretary for inclusion in the record and to aid in transcription. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to try to field them. Respectfully submitted. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Gina, good morning.
Good morning, Gina Torres, TPO staff. Regarding your action items today on the board agenda, committees were briefed on the Fowler Avenue studies back in June. So although they were presented as status with no action requested, the following comments were gathered from those presentations. Committee members raised concerns that the frontage road concept will not address safety issues for cyclists. It was noted that over the years, Fowler has been recognized for having too many lanes to cross and not enough safe locations to do so. Committee members requested that speed management be brought into the design. There was a discussion about context classification of that area and that Fowler is not suburban, but in practice is an urban environment. The safety benefits of the different design options were discussed, addressing all modes. And that was a summary of the comments that the committees made on that Fowler PD&E studies. The second action item on your agenda today, the Hillsborough County Bicycle Network Evaluation, was presented to committees in May and June. The livable roadways, bicycle, pedestrian, and technical advisory committees approved the county's bicycle network evaluation. As Chair Fernandez just pointed out, although the CAC members didn't approve it, Wade Reynolds had met with the members of the CAC that had the most interest in that topic over the summer. So he had individual meetings with them and went back to the CAC, although it wasn't there for an action item. He addressed the concerns that they had had. That's a brief update then of your committee reports or the committee actions to address what you'll be taking action on today. There were a lot of presentations received over the last couple of months, US 301 PD&E, parking policy ideas, Vision Zero Streets study, Lithia Pinecrest Road, PD&E public comment period, the top 10 dangerous cycling locations, the MOU on creating Tampa Bay MPO, the Hillsborough Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Plan. There were some presentations received on the 2050 needs assessments for good repair and resilience, and another for major projects. So there's a lot of great presentations going before your committees. Just a brief summary of the public comments that we received. Anthony Kroll wrote to Secretary Gwynn and copied TPO board members and others requesting an update on green space and mitigation solutions for the impacts from highway widening, particularly noting Tampa Heights and pointing out historic discrimination. And he offered steps that DOT can take to have more positive impact in the neighborhood. Neil Cosentino responded to articles in the Plan Hillsborough newsletter and wanted to share his suggestion for community autonomous shuttle circulators, mobility ways, and encouraging tax incentives to build on both sides of the interstate. And lastly, Gary Cloyd asked that I read into the record, good morning, board members. House Bill 1397 went into effect July 1st, 2023. Any funding for HART TIP-related projects to include the heavy maintenance facility for the upcoming fiscal year should be placed on temporary hold until the findings from the Department of Transportation or its consultant has been completed. So those are your public comments and your committee reports. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to move right on to the Executive Director recruitment. We know on Friday, July 21st, we all received an email from Commissioner Wassell's office regarding the recruitment process. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Wassell.
Frankly, I didn't even see this was in this item. My timeline for that has been missed, and I think that any further comments about it is kind of moot. The ship is kind of sailed, so I'm really at a point wherever the cards fall, they fall. So.
Oh, okay, thank you. Then at this time, we'll hear from regarding the interview panel recommendation from Mayor Ross.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the board will recall, this board tasked the certain selected members, mostly volunteers, to establish an interview panel and to work with HR to facilitate the process of identifying a new executive director to replace Ms. Alden. The members of that interview panel are myself, Commissioner Myers, Commissioner Wastel, Councilmember Hurtak, and Planning Commission Executive Director Zornita. So we have conducted the interviews of the semifinalists that were approved by this board, and we've had discussion this morning about those interviews and making a recommendation of moving candidates forward. We had a unanimous decision this morning to propose that you move 3 candidates forward, and these are not in any order of preference. These are in the order that we interviewed the candidates. And the 3 we recommend to move forward to you are Wong, Sandinasamy, and Benson. And I believe Megan is here if there are questions about the next steps in the process. But we are seeking board acceptance of these recommendations or modifications if you want to interview somebody else, but we need the board to decide who you want to interview for the next step. I should also mention that, as Mr. Fernandez alluded to a few moments ago, there is a recent CAC request to now be a part of this process that was not included in the original work plan that was approved by this board. This is something new. And so that came up at our meeting this morning at the planning, at the policy committee. We did not take any action or have discussion on that because we felt that it exceeded the direction that this board had given us. You charged us with selecting candidates and making recommendations, not making decisions on that. So that's up to the board whether that wants to be discussed or acted upon. We didn't take any action on that. So I guess the first thing we would ask for is approval or discussion of the list of candidates, and then we could go from there on the CAC request. And I believe Councilmember Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. So we have 3 that have advanced, And my comment was to respect the wishes of the CAC, which you've already mentioned, that they be able to meet with these three nominees and get the opportunity to talk with them. So if we make a motion to move forward with the three today, they would first meet with the CAC, and then at a future date, we would vote out of those three candidates, correct?
I'll defer to the chair for some of this. My understanding is this is really two separate issues, and one would be to approve the slate of candidates to move forward, and then the second, I think these are kind of separate issues, would be then, does the CAC interview these folks or not? Because those are probably two very different discussions.
Okay, then I would make a motion to move forward with the three that were selected, and then we'll talk about the CAC separately.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Guida, Maniscalco, second by Commissioner Cohen. Gail, can you please do a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Myers?
Yes.
Mayor Ross?
Yes.
Commissioner Wastel?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Kemp?
Yes.
Councilmember Clendenin?
Yes.
Councilmember Hurtak?
Yes.
Councilmember Maniscalco?
Yes.
Mayor Kilton?
Yes.
Board Member Vaughn?
Yes.
Gina Du?
Yes.
Greg Slater?
Yes.
Scott Drainville?
Yes.
Planning Commissioner Soraya?
Yes.
The motion passes 14-0.
Thank you. Okay, now, Councilman Maniscalco.
So would a separate motion be in order to open the discussion up to the CAC so that they will have the opportunity to interview the three individuals that we just voted to advance, correct?
Yes, so we can talk about it now.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion that the three individuals that we just voted to, that were selected for the next round, that they meet with our CAC.
Hold on one
Second.
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 Okay, that's what you said. Okay, go ahead. I didn't know she had a question.
That's a motion
Okay,
that
you
that
second.
the CAC now meets with them.
Okay. Commissioner Cohen?
Yeah, so just from discussion on this, I think it's a good idea for the CAC to meet with them. Two things. The first is that one of the three candidates is coming from out of town. So I think it's important that we not have them come twice. It would be help if the CAC meets with them, it will have to be at the same trip that we do our interview with them. And then, I'm not sure exactly how the timing on all this is gonna work. But I think the second important issue is, once the CAC meets with the three candidates, what are they gonna do with their feelings about it? How are they gonna report back to us and express their feelings? Is it gonna be in writing? Are we gonna ask them to come to the meeting? We ought to give them direction on what we want them to do.
Okay, I'm going to refer to Beth or Megan.
Megan Boterney, TPO staff. So what we were originally envisioning was that the three candidates would come in on September 12th, meet with the TPO staff, as well as have the opportunity to meet individually one-on-one with the TPO board members should they choose to do so. And then on September 13th, which is your already scheduled board meeting, this would be the interview time. So that's where you all would ask questions, they would answer them. So I am, just in terms as Councilman Cohen said, we do have one that is not from the area, so we just want to be cognizant that we have time to do all this, that they have time to see you all, that they have time to meet with the staff, as well as then the following day meet at the board. So that's a loose outline of what we were envisioning. So in terms of where the CAC would fit in, obviously I will defer that to you, but we would just want to be mindful of the time.
So as a question, are we gonna vote to choose the candidate on the 13th after we conduct the interviews?
Yes.
Yes.
So if that's the case, we have to have heard from the CAC prior to that. Otherwise, that's all.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, we'll take, Councilwoman Hurtak, then I come to you.
Is there a reason they can't just do a Zoom interview the way we did?
Beth?
Or is there a reason why they can't watch the videos that have already been recorded and placed on our YouTube channel?
Oh, that might work as well, but I also think that there isn't a reason they can't, just do like a 30-minute interview during their normal CAC time, which is in the evening, at their normal meeting, because it would be after normal people's work time. It would be on Zoom or however they want to do it. To me, that just seems easiest, and then you have a week to get feedback, however you want to do the feedback.
Let me just, and I'll come, hold on one second. I thought the purpose for the CAC was a meet and greet. We've already have a board that made the recommendations to this board, so they missed that process. It was just a meet and greet, from my understanding. Well, that should have occurred prior to, we're in the recommendation at this point to this board. Okay, if we want to establish to have a meet and greet so that the CAC can meet the candidates, good. But this board that met at 8:30, the panel, we're recommending to this board, but I hear from others. Councilwoman Clendenin.
Madam Chair, that's a point well taken, and my initial reaction to this is that this probably should have been dealt with, months ago to create a procedure for this to happen, and now the ball has been rolling downhill. So it's difficult to adjust at this late stage in the process. That being said, the interview panel did an incredible job, and for those people who are listening and have not watched the interviews, they were very comprehensive. The questions that were asked were, really encompassing of what this job position entails. And I think that given the opportunity for the CAC to review those interviews, which are published online and video in advance, that they can do it at their timeline, and then maybe provide, their thoughts to us prior, because we also have to be respectful of these candidates as well, so that if we create too many hoops to jump through, that we have to be respectful of these candidates. So I think that, given the CAC the opportunity to go through those interviews, provide their input in advance on their timeline, at least knowing what our timeline is, and providing a report may be the best, the best compromise on both. And maybe the next time that we have something like this come up, we can take this input and incorporate it into our procedures.
Yeah. Okay. Vaughn. Vaughn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. While I appreciate that we are on a strict timeline and that we are asking a lot from the candidates, I think they should have an invitation to interview with the CAC if they choose to. I mean, there have been questions about transparency with this process, and while I think it's important that obviously we're making the decision, I would like to know what general citizens, what questions they have and what they value. And since they didn't have an opportunity to craft any of the questions, while they can watch what we asked, it really doesn't give them an opportunity to engage in the process. And I think one thing that has been clear from the beginning, as our mission as the board, is to engage our community and our citizens and allow those voices to be a part of the process. So by limiting that, I think that we're veering away from that mission, and that's going to cause a lot more frustration. It's going to cause a lot more questions about transparency, and I think we should make this process as open as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kemp.
Yes, well put. I was going to say the same thing, and I think they could meet, by virtually and do that, but by just watching the videos, they don't get to engage. They might have questions that are different than any questions that we would ask, and it might be, something that we would learn from too if we wanted to watch them, but we're down to 3 candidates, so it's not, it's not as huge and large a burden as it might be going over all the candidates, and I think it's something that we should, they should have the opportunity to do that again. The candidates can choose if they want to do that. If we think it's too much of a burden on them, they can choose to or not to. And then the CAC, I don't know what they want to do, but they could decide that maybe they want to do a recommendation, a vote. Maybe they want to tell us what the vote is. I don't know. But whatever they wanted to do after that and get it to us before, we have our meeting. So we're, looking at the interests and what they've expressed as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Wasta.
I'm with you, Madam Chair. I think Mrs. Alden raised an excellent point. All of the information is there. The questions shouldn't be allowed to change for the CAC. We tasked Mrs. Boterney, who is an expert in recruiting, with those questions. We have appointees to the CAC. We can individually reach out to our appointees, and they can offer us as board members their specific feedback. And additionally, I think it would be disrespectful to the candidates and too excessive of their time. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Thank you. I actually speak to my CAC representative after every meeting that they have, and they've absolutely talked about the fact that they should have the opportunity to talk to our candidates, mainly because this while they are answering to us, it's a very different way that they're going to communicate with the public. And I think it would be very valuable to see how they answer the public's questions, especially after the conversation we had this morning about communication. And so I'd be really interested to see their communication style with the general public, because it is a very public-facing job. And that was one of the things that we talked about and were concerned about. I think that would give us a little more insight into how they work with others. And so, and I know, just having been a community activist, that the questions we asked were simply not what I would have asked as a community member. Like, I would have had completely different concerns and questions. So I do not think that our recording would be enough, because we're trying to look at it holistically. That is not the CAC's job. They're looking for the community.
Commissioner Cohen.
I'm going to try to make a motion to encapsulate some of what I've heard just now.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Mayor Kilton, you had your hand up? You okay? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Okay, if you turn your lights on, because I can't see okay.
So because of the fact that one is coming from out of town and two are local, and because of the time constraints, I'd like to make a motion that we ask the CAC to conduct Zoom interviews with the 3 finalists that have been selected by the committee, half an hour. And if the candidates are amenable to that, great. If they're not amenable to that, they won't do it. But if they want to interview each of the 3 and then provide feedback of their choice to us prior to our consideration of the 3 finalists on the 13th.
Okay.
Madam Chair, just a point of order. I think we have an active motion on the table already that's been seconded. I think we have to dispose of that motion prior to taking a new one.
I'll take that motion off the table, because I'll support this, so this is fine.
Okay. No, I was just going to say, if the second's withdrawn, otherwise Commissioner Cohen's motion, since it's really well synced with the initial motion, could just be an amended motion to the first motion.
Okay, that's fine. So I keep my original motion, then I accept the amendment, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as you're agreeable to it, it already had a second, so you're voting on the amended motion.
That's fine. Thank you.
Commissioner, could I ask you to repeat that motion? Because I was thinking about...
So my motion would be to ask the CAC to conduct a half an hour Zoom interview with each of the 3 finalists that have been chosen by the search committee, and to report back to us in whatever form they choose their input and findings prior to our meeting where we are going to interview and consider the candidates. And I might even say that they give it to us at least 48 hours prior, and that way we can incorporate whatever they say into our final questions and our final consideration.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just kind of 2 thoughts and something for consideration to put on the table. I'm a little bit concerned with the term interview, and I think that just kind of says a certain thing to me. Meet and greet, I think, is a very different type of a scenario, for the candidates to be able to meet with the CAC, get to know them, answer their questions, those types of things. And so I would urge the board to consider that. The other thing that I really keep thinking about is whoever this board selects, we want them to come in and be successful. And if there's a scenario where the CAC is on a little bit different page than the board, I think that could create a challenge for a candidate that could come in. So with that in mind, I would urge the board to consider, instead of a formal motion coming from the CAC, but maybe ask the CAC to give their feedback to their appointing authority and then have that as part of the debate and conversation. Just, I want to make sure that whoever we select is really has the grounds to be successful when they come in.
Jessica?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to agree with Member Hurtak in regards to the conversation that I heard come out of the meeting today. A lot of it was centered around the candidate's ability to interface with the public. I heard some concerns about that. So while I understand that a meet and greet might take a little more pressure off it and be a little more informal, I do think, again, that a huge portion of our mission is to make sure that we're really being reflective of what the community wants. And so I think that by giving them an opportunity to ask more formal questions and be able to answer that on the record, it's going to demonstrate some of those qualities that I heard you talking about today when we're evaluating them as a candidate. And for me, looking at it as a candidate, I think the opportunity to talk to as many people as possible and really be able to share my opinions, my resume, why I'm good for this position, it's not disrespectful to give them as many opportunities as possible. It gives, it gives them more opportunity. I think it's the antithesis to being disrespectful. I think it's very respectful to give them as many platforms with as many different people, because the truth is, whether or not the CAC isn't going to necessarily support who we support, they represent the public, and the public are going to come here and speak. So again, I think it's beholden to us, especially as elected officials who represent the public, to get as much feedback from the public in this decision as possible. And that's my thoughts on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ross.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm hoping that we can build consensus on this, and I think maybe we're getting closer. But I have some concerns about the motion as it stands. For one is, I'm a little nervous about the public asking unscripted questions of the candidates, because not all questions are legal questions. And so we had very tight control over the questions that were framed to the candidates to make sure that they were legal substantially, so they weren't going to be challenged. It's very easy to stray into questions that ask things that we're not allowed to ask. And I don't think anybody would do that intentionally. I don't think that for a minute, but it's very easy to happen. That's why we ask all the candidates the same questions, and they're very scripted. The other thing that I'd like to say is that while I value the service of the CAC, we have a lot of advisory boards, not just the CAC. And so that we have, I don't even remember all of them. I mean, we all have appointees to the Bicycle Pedestrian Board, the Transportation Disadvantage Board, on and on and on. I think it's important that we provide ample opportunity for the public to provide input into this process. I certainly am not trying to make this somehow so that we do this in a vacuum. I want the public engagement, but I'm not sure that I see the CAC as having any special status over the other boards or over the other members of the public. I would be more in favor. I mean, if we can build consensus around, I have a great deal of respect. So if we're going to go one way, that's fine. But I would much rather see us inject. Remember, we're injecting something into the process after we're changing it. But I'd much rather see us do something along the lines of hosting a public event, a meet and greet. The county hosts this at a location, perhaps at your facility somewhere, and open this up for all members of the public to come and dialogue with these folks. But I agree with Mr. Slater. I don't like the interview thing, because what happens if the CAC reaches a different conclusion than the board, or with all due respect, the CAC is not the TPO. We are the ones appointed and accountable to the public, and how can we? I'm in favor of the spirit of this. I want them to have access to these candidates. I want other members, I want the public to have access. So is there a way that we can do this without having a injected interview in between the two interviews that we already told them? Now we're telling them they got another body that they have to interview with, that they didn't know about this, and all of a sudden we're changing the game on them in the middle of this.
Yeah, Beth?
So perhaps we could provide an opportunity during, this is going to be a busy day on the 12th of September, but, you know, perhaps like an early evening meeting that could be available to the public and, you know, invite our CAC members to be part of that discussion, and ask our CAC members to get in contact with their appointing board member. We could certainly make that happen. And it would not add additional time to the schedule. The candidates have been informed about the day before, September 12th, that we would like them to be available.
Okay, thank you. School Board Member Bond.
Thank you. Mayor Ross, I'm a little bit confused because I heard your concern that you wanted to make sure that the questions were appropriate, and then also suggest opening up to a forum where the public can come and interact and ask questions. So I'm not sure if we make it even a larger event where the public can interact, how we then safeguard the questions, which were originally your concerns. So if you could give me a little bit of thought process of that.
Point of order, as the maker of the motion, I would love to be able to just at least address the points, and then it may be. On the question of the legality, I think the easy thing, Mr. Clark, would be that if we went down this road, we could have someone from the county attorney's office present in the interview to keep anything from being said that strays into anything illegal. I think you could very easily do that. So I just wanted to say that, number one. The other thing is, I just want to, I agree with exactly what the idea of opening up to the public seems to me to actually make it more risky. You know, these CAC members are our public appointees, and I do think they're a special committee. They are the Citizens Advisory Committee. And I think that the way to avoid the problem that Mr. Slater identified and that seemed to have made you uncomfortable is maybe rather than asking them to come to any consensus, we can ask each of our appointees to report back to us individually with what their views are on this, and that's how we are going to get the feedback that will help us inform our decisions. So those are just some thoughts, and we can tweak the motion to include that. I think that might go the furthest to getting, I mean, we have a difference of opinion here about this, so I'm trying to find something everybody can live with.
Okay, we're going to take the last round of questions.
Well, actually, I was going to offer a friendly amendment to Commissioner Cohen's motion to accept what he just described as we go through the process, the board members, as opposed to going and reaching a consensus and providing a report back to their individual members that appointed in that board to provide input for our consideration at the for the interview process.
I still haven't finished, if that's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry. We kind of volleyed back and forth, and I wasn't able to finish my comment. And I don't, the other boards that you're referring to, I don't have appointees to these other advisory boards, so maybe there's something I'm missing, and I should. So if there are other advisory boards that I can add appointees to, my only appointee, from my understanding, is the CAC. And while I have a great relationship. What was that?
And the Livable Roads Committee.
Okay, Livable Roads Committee. I don't know about that one. So I guess my concern is, while I absolutely have a good relationship with my CAC member and I value their feedback, I would like to hear a discussion from the whole. I would like to know what Member Kemp's appointee feels. I would like not just to hear it funneled through my appointee. I would prefer to hear the discussion in whole and have a recommendation. I mean, our CAC comes to us multiple times, whether it's about a TIP amendment, with what we vote on, and they're in conflict, and that's okay. That's healthy. That's what we're here to do, is to hear that, evaluate that information, make our opinions, make our case of why we're making that opinion, and move forward. So I don't really understand, I just don't understand this hesitation to accepting and engaging the CAC in the process. So while I appreciate all the amendments to that, to move this forward, I still stand firm in the fact that I would like to give the CAC what they requested, an opportunity to vet these candidates and come to us with their recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I made a motion, but I also want to make very clear to people that are listening. I'm not opposed to getting the CAC involved. I just question that I wish it would have happened earlier in the process so we could have incorporated it into the procedures. I'm just concerned about, because this is an interview process for a job, so we do have those requirements, you know, that are scripted out in law. And so, I mean, like I said, again, I think in a perfect world, this would have been a great idea 6 months ago or 3 months ago, but it's a little difficult right now. But I did have a motion on the floor.
The motion dies first. I'd like a second. You had a motion. Attorney.
I was just going to clarify, though, Councilman Clendenin, your amended motion to Commissioner Cohen's motion sounded like, Commissioner Cohen, that's actually what you had stated when you came back to this, which was the appointees of each TPO member reporting back to them afterwards. And I think that was the spirit of your motion as well. Okay. Commissioner Cohen, were you wanting to?
No, I just am not sure where this stands procedurally,
okay.
But I do think that I think what I'm suggesting is clear. Sorry. I think if you would want me to restate it, I can, but it's up to you. Yes? The motion that I'm making is that we ask the CAC to conduct a 30-minute interview discussion on a Zoom conversation, with each of the 3 candidates that will be in the presence of legal counsel, just to make sure it doesn't veer into anything inappropriate, and that each of our individual representatives can report back to us on their takeaways. I would just comment that if board members are interested in the entire discussion, they could tune in and listen to the Zoom interviews to the way that we listened this morning to the search committee. So that's my motion. Oh, and that they give us the people give us their feedback 48 hours before September 12th, say by the 10th, so that when we come to our final set of interviews, we've gotten that information from our respective appointees.
I did hear a second. Yeah, okay.
Commissioner Myers?
Yes.
Chair, excuse me. I'm sorry, who was the second on that motion?
Councilwoman Hurtag.
Thank you. And we do have Charles Klug online, so I will need a vote of consent for remote participation.
Second.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who made the motion? Thank you. And
Second
who was
by
the-
Commissioner Cohen.
Thank you.
Okay, I just have one question, Megan or Beth. During the interview process, the CAC members, were they online with us? I know some were during the interview process. Do we know how many of the CAC members were online?
I'm not sure. However, the videos are definitely readily available too if they weren't online.
Right, and we would not know at this point who has viewed the videos.
Okay. Well, I still have some concerns, and I'm not against taking the public out, but the process that we're in right now. And I can't recall if the CAC expressed an interest to be a part of the process at the beginning. I don't recall them asking at the beginning of the process. Because where we are now, we're one step from making a decision, okay? And so think about that with the public as well. We're going back now, making changes of a process that this board has voted on to move forward. And I'm talking about the initial process. I'm not talking about where we are right now. So I just want to bring that to our attention, okay? So we have a motion on the floor. Gail, would you do a roll call vote?
One more
please?
question.
I think as a board, we've discussed this quite a bit, and we need to move on the agenda. So,
We have a motion to.
we have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Cohen, second by Councilwoman Hurtag. That's the motion we're voting on. And then we'll come back, we'll vote first on the remote, since we have one clue, because when I called, we didn't have it online. Okay, so let's do the remote.
Chair, if I may, Mr. Clark, since we do have a board member remote, should we handle that one first for
Yes,
participation?
that's what I was saying, to do the remote first, yes.
Sure.
We're voting for the remote.
And
Yes.
that can be done by a voice vote.
Yes. I'm sorry, Gail, what did you say?
It doesn't need to be a roll call vote for what you're doing right now.
Oh, okay. Okay. All in favor of the motion for remote, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposers? No, this is on the remote. Oh. Okay.
I think that's legal.
No, that's on our agenda.
Oh, he,
I'm sorry. This discussion was had at the June public hearing, and the question was put to me about remote participation. My answer at that time, my answer now is the state we're at now, post-COVID, is that we're back to where the law was before on all this, which is remote participation is allowable under extraordinary circumstances. Obviously, you still have to have a physical quorum present. That's always been the case. But at present, all the emergency exceptions have expired, and anyone participating virtually instead of in person there must be extraordinary circumstances to why they're doing it. This is all based on Attorney General opinions. It's not case law.
Okay. So, going forward, we'll move that item off our agenda. Okay. So now we're ready to vote for the motion? Okay, we're ready.
Commissioner Myers?
No.
Mayor Ross?
No.
Commissioner Wastel?
no.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Kemp?
Yes.
Councilmember Clendenin?
Yes.
Councilmember Hurtak?
Yes.
Councilmember Maniscalco?
Yes.
Mayor Kilton?
No.
Board Member Vaughn?
Yes.
Charles Klug?
No.
Gina Du?
No.
Greg Slater?
No.
Scott Drainville?
No.
Planning Commissioner Soraya?
No.
The motion fails 8-6.
Thank you so much. We'll move on.
I'm going to correct that 8-7.
Okay. Thank you, Gail. Yes.
Then I would like to make a motion to have a meet and greet on Tuesday night, open to the public, in a space that's provided by the County Commission.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilwoman Hurtak, second by Mayor Ross. Gail, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Myers?
Yes.
Mayor Ross?
Yes.
Commissioner Wastel? Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Kemp?
Yes.
Councilmember Clendenin?
Yes.
Councilmember Hurtak?
Yes.
Councilmember Maniscalco? Mayor Kilton?
Yes.
Board Member Vaughn?
Yes.
Charles Klug?
Yes.
Gina Du?
Yes.
Greg Slater?
Yes.
Scott Drainville?
Yes.
Planning Commissioner Soraya?
Yes.
The motion passes 14-0.
Okay, the next item, thank you all so much for your participation. We're going to get through this today. Consent agenda.
Move consent agenda?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Cohen, second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposers? That motion is carried. We're right to our action items. We'll hear from Greg Fox, Jay Collins, and Elizabeth Watkins on the Fowler Avenue study. Good morning.
Thank you. And then, good morning, Chair. Is the presentation on this? Sure, she's got it up there. Oh, it's up there. Okay, all right, wonderful. It's been a while since I've been here. Good morning, board members. My name is Jay Collins with the Planning Commission staff. Staff is here today to provide for you a status update on 2 items and then an action item that relates in part to that status. So Mr. Craig Fox from the Department of Transportation, District 7, will provide a status update related to the Fowler Avenue alternatives analysis that is currently ongoing. Planning Commission staff, myself, will provide for you an update to the Fowler Vision study that is ongoing. And then after that, from TPO staff, Ms. Elizabeth Watkins will come up and provide for you the action item, which is a letter of comment related to that work that myself and Mr. Fox will discuss. We have been here before. We actually introduced this project to you some months ago. And so again, this is a project that has numerous irons in the fire. It is a good land use and transportation work that is going on between Florida Department of Transportation, the Planning Commission, and also Hillsborough Area's Regional Transit Authority. And Mr. Willits with Hart is here, who can also talk a little bit about that. Next slide, please. And now I'd like to introduce Mr. Craig Fox from the Florida Department of Transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay, and thank you for having me here this morning. My name's Craig Fox. I'm the FDOT Deputy Project Manager for the Fowler Avenue PD&E study. The project manager, Amber Russo, is online to help answer any questions. I'm here today to provide a project status update and an overview of our recent public alternatives public workshop. Next slide, please. There are many factors that have led to conducting our PD&E study, including several other projects near the Fowler Avenue corridor. Hart's Bus Rapid Transit Study, shown from Fowler Avenue, from Nebraska Avenue to Bruce B. Downs Boulevard, and also the Planning Commission's Vision Study, which evaluates land use policy and code for the area. These studies, along with improvements at Mosey and the addition of a new USF football stadium and various private developments along the corridor, have contributed to FDOT's need to improve the roadway components of Fowler Avenue. Next slide, please. Our study limits run along Fowler Avenue from North Florida Avenue to west of North 56th Street. The purpose of the study is to address safety for all users, improve traffic operations, and provide multimodal accommodations. Improvements studied along the corridor include 3 transit alternatives from Nebraska Avenue to Bruce B. Downs Boulevard. Innovative intersections were evaluated from Bruce B. Downs Boulevard to west of 56th Street, and bicycle and pedestrian facilities are being enhanced throughout the corridor. Next slide, please. Now let's see how the Fowler Avenue corridor looks today. I'll start with the left image and go to the right. From North Florida Avenue to west of Nebraska Avenue, it is a 4-lane divided facility. And Fowler Avenue is 8 lanes between Nebraska Avenue and Bruce B. Downs Boulevard, as shown in the middle image. And then there's a 6-lane facility east of Bruce B. Downs Boulevard to west of 56th Street. Existing bike lanes are located along both sides of Fowler Avenue from Nebraska to 56th Street, and sidewalks are located throughout the corridor. The existing right-of-way varies in the corridor from 98 feet to 227 feet wide, and the proposed speeds vary from 40 to 50 miles an hour. Next slide, please. We analyzed the crash history from 2015 to 2019. Over 3,300 crashes have occurred in the corridor, in the study corridor. 120 of these involved a pedestrian or cyclist. Approximately 73% of the pedestrian and cyclist crashes occurred between Nebraska Avenue and Bruce B. Downs Boulevard. And that is also the same area where the transit corridor is being proposed. For all crashes, 53 were considered severe, resulting in 9 fatalities. All, unfortunately, of those crashes included cyclists or pedestrians. And there were 46 incapacitating injuries, 17 of which were cyclists or pedestrians. And of the total crashes, 56% were rear end and 20% were angle and left turn. Next slide, please. As previously mentioned, the study corridor is divided into 2 main segments: the transit corridor and intersection improvements. Let's begin with the green section, or the transit corridor section, from Nebraska Avenue to Bruce B. Downs Boulevard, where we are proposing 3 transit alternatives are being evaluated. Next slide, please. The first alternative includes a business access and transit lane, or BAT lane. The existing outside general use lane will be repurposed for buses and right-turning vehicles only. General use vehicles can utilize the bat lane to turn into local businesses and side streets only. 10-foot wide walks are proposed along each side of Fowler Avenue, and minimal right-of-way will be required for this alternative. Next slide, please. The second alternative includes a frontage lane system. The frontage lanes would be located separate from mainline Fowler Avenue and would provide access to local businesses. They would also separate the regional and local traffic, allowing regional travel to move more efficiently throughout the corridor. Buses would utilize the outside bat lane on mainline Fowler, and 8-foot wide walks are proposed on each side of the roadway. Right-of-way will also be required along the corridor for this concept. Next slide, please. The third and final transit corridor alternative includes a median guideway. Bus-only lanes would be located in the median or center of Fowler Avenue, and stop-start would be located at intersections to allow pedestrians safe access at crosswalks. U-turns would also be permitted at designated intersection locations, and 10-foot wide walks would be proposed on each side of Fowler Avenue, and minimal right-of-way would be required for this alternative concept. Next slide, please. Now looking at the intersection improvements we considered along the corridor from Bruce B. Downs Boulevards to west of 56, from Bruce B. Downs Boulevard to west of 56th Street. These would modify vehicle, pedestrian, and bicycle movements to reduce delay, increase efficiency, and also provide for safer travel. We looked at the FDOT manual on intersection control evaluation, or ICE. We use that to determine the most appropriate intersection designs, and we looked at different alternatives, including R-cuts, through cuts, displaced left turns, and also single loop intersections. However, none of the intersections designs were found feasible for this stretch of the corridor. Next slide, please. Now we do have, although we didn't select one of the innovative intersections for this section of the corridor, we do have some proposed improvements. And those include a 10-foot wide walk on both sides of Fowler Avenue, adding mid-block crosswalks at 46th Street and 52nd Street, adding a crosswalk on the west leg of the North 40th Street or McKinley Drive and USF Bull Run Drive intersections, adding a northbound through lane at the 40th Street or McKinley Drive intersection, and also adding a second southbound left turn lane at the 50th Street intersection. We're also looking to add pedestrian refuge islands at various intersections and also incorporate speed management by reducing lane widths through this corridor section. Next slide, please. The design of Fowler Avenue has safety first, has user safety first and foremost. Crash data on the corridor clearly outlines the need for improvements. In order to improve safety, the strategies being analyzed include potentially reducing the speed limit, adding mid-block crosswalks, separating the bicycle and pedestrian facilities from the roadway, and improving the intersections. Next slide, please. The evaluation matrix compares the right-of-way acquisition requirements and the environmental impacts of the preferred alternative to the no-build or do-nothing alternative, which remains viable throughout the end of the study. The preliminary costs include design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction vary per transit alternative from $25 million on the low end with the bat lane alternative to $82.5 million on the higher end with a frontage lane alternative. Next slide, please. Public engagement is underway and continues throughout the duration of the study. To date, the project website has been created and updated continuously. The study kickoff and several small group meetings have occurred, and the newsletters were mailed out announcing the kickoff and the alternatives public workshop. The workshop was held on the evening of Thursday, June 15th at the University Mall property and also simultaneously on GoToWebinar. Lastly, a future public hearing may be held based on the selected project alternative. Next slide, please. The Alternative Public Workshop was held the evening of Thursday, June 15th, from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the University Mall. We had 26 in-person attendees and 1 attendee online. During the official public comment period, we received 14 comments. The main concerns included the need to improve the pedestrian and bicycle accommodations, lower the speed limit, and also a desire for the bat lane alternative. Next slide, please. The improvements to traffic operations and safety in the project corridor are consistent with your 2045 long-range transportation plan. Next slide, please. The project is currently funded for design in fiscal years 23 and 24 and construction in fiscal year 25 and 26. Right-of-way is not currently funded. As the schedule shows, projects, public involvement and alternatives development are ongoing, and the next step will depend on the selected preferred alternative. Next slide, please. So here are the next 3 steps for all 3 agencies concerning Fowler Avenue improvements. Number 1, the FDOT will select a preferred alternative this month of August. Depending on which alternative is selected, certain NEPA approvals and a public hearing may be required. Number 2, FDOT's design phase will begin this September. Number 3, the Planning Commission plans to host a second open house in September. And number 4, HART has already begun the lane repurposing process for the transit elements of the projects. And next slide, please. So for more information, we have the study website. It's still available. All the documents displayed at the Alternative Public Workshop are uploaded to the project website. You can also reach it via scanning the QR code on the screen. We also have the project manager's contact information is on there too, Ms. Amber Russo. For more information, please visit the website, contact the PM. And if the committee is ready, I'll turn it over to Jade for an update on the Fowler Avenue Vision Study.
Yeah.
Mr. Fox, can I ask you a quick, just have a quick comment if you don't mind? And I'm speaking now not as a board member, as I'm speaking as the mayor of Temple Terrace. When this project began, my understanding is DOT and Planning Commission, they went to approach Temple Terrace and asked the city to be part of this on our section of Fowler Avenue. And people before me said, no, we don't want to, leave us alone. We don't want to be part of that. Well, through no fault of yours, that has changed. And so the flavor of Fowler Avenue that does not stop at 52nd Street where the study area stops, that just happens to be the border of our city. And so I know it's too late to change this, and I'm not even proposing that you do that, but what I am saying to you is when you do the design, if there's ample right-of-way, nothing is different between 52nd Street and 56th Street. The only thing that's different is that's incorporated. But the flavor of the road doesn't change. It does change east of 56, that's a different animal, but that stretch between 52nd and 56th, the only thing that's different is it's in the city limits. I would ask you to consider, if feasible, whatever improvements and treatments you're going to do up to 52nd, that you also do them to 56th, because it makes no sense whatsoever to stop these treatments at this arbitrary crossroad. It most makes sense to stop them at 56 because that's where the road changes. So I don't know if that's possible, but you have our encouragement to do that. I mean, if you can do that at this point, we would ask that you consider that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, the study does go to just west of 56th Street, and I'm like 90% sure the design also follows those same project limits. I can double check when Jay's giving his presentation and get back to you on that, but I'm fairly positive the design actually does go to west of 56.
Well, the fault for that was ours, not yours, but times have changed and we've changed, and we're not an island anymore, so.
Mr. Mayor, what you were speaking of is, yes, it is to 52nd Street for the vision study. However, The Technical Advisory Committee does include your planning and your engineering departments, and the recommendations that we're going to discuss here have actually been sent to those departments. And again, if we have a phase 2 of Fowler to actually implement some of these recommendations, we're very excited to have the communication with the city of Temple Terrace to see if they would be interested in implementing some of these recommendations as they go forward.
And Craig, don't leave, we have some members to ask questions. Councilwoman Hurtak.
Thank you. I didn't see anything about bikes, and then I saw the word wide walk. Is that the new term for bikes and pedestrians?
So wide walk can serve the function. I mean, cyclists can certainly use those facilities. So, yes, it was the intent to kind of combine them on a separated facility that's further outside from the roadway.
I just want to make sure, because that's the very first time I've heard the word wide walk, and so it's clever, but just make sure you share that with people, because I was looking at those going, where are the bike lanes? And I'm glad it's wise to keep them off of the transit areas. So I greatly appreciate it. That was my main question. I'll wait for discussion to discuss.
Okay. Commissioner Coyne?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, Councilman Clendon?
Yeah, I actually want to double down on what Mayor Ross said, and I'm obviously I'm relatively new to this committee, so I don't know a lot of the background and where we are, but I know the realities where we are as far as development. You hinted on this when you started the presentation about USF football and the redevelopment around Mosey, and I know on council we're approving lots of density and development projects and adjacent to this corridor. So it doesn't, you know, as we move forward, I think it really needs to be on the front burner of projecting what you're proposing in this corridor all the way out to at least 56th Street, and planning for those developments, because they're coming. I mean, it's not even a maybe now. It's actually happening, and I think that we need to really make sure that we have that kind of vision to make sure that this is done all the way through.
Thank you. Okay, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, if we could have the PowerPoint brought back up, I would appreciate that. Thank you. And could we go to the next slide, please? So let's leave the right-of-way of Fowler Avenue, and let's talk about the communities that abut that right-of-way, and let's talk about the third largest job cluster in Hillsborough County, being the university area, the mall, and those medical facilities that are along that area. One of the things that's very interesting about this area, we just spoke about it when the mayor mentioned it. Temple Terrace is right there. The city of Tampa is right there. Unincorporated Hillsborough County is right there. So there's a lot of competing development, competing codes, competing regulations. And one of the things that we're looking at is we're asking people that live along that community, in that community, to make comment about that, and make comment about that through a vision study. Next slide, please. So again, you guys have seen this. This is where we are actually looking. There are some new faces here, so we'll talk a little bit about this. Again, this is a study of the Planning Commission, the Transportation Organization, unincorporated Hillsborough County, and the city of Tampa. So we are within those limits from 52nd Street all the way to the east, running all the way to the west over to Nebraska Avenue, I-275. Going north and going south, we're about half a mile from Fowler Avenue. It's a little bit more that you see there where there's an industrial park. What's the reason of cutting off an industrial park? You should include the entire industrial park. Why is the university not in it? Of course the university is in it, but the university is a master plan community. It's a little bit of a different animal. We do have a lot of conversations with the university, with leadership over there. Carol Post, who does a lot of their facilities planning, and some of the other folks that are there. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit of where we've been. We've actually gone through community values. That values, you can actually find that online right now. It's basically a technical memorandum showing you a little bit about some of what the community feels are opportunities and constraints in their area. We're going through the vision study right now. We're going to talk about some of those recommendations. And then lastly is a redevelopment plan. It kind of takes those first two, fuses them together about how do we actually implement some of the vision. Next slide, please. A little bit about where we've been since we were last here. We've had a lot of public engagement. These have been some smaller conversations. Online, there's been a survey, and we've had a couple of hundred people that have have communicated with us on the survey. But what have we been doing in the community? We've gone out and we've done some walk-in talks with the community. What else have we done? We've done some stakeholder interviews. Who are those stakeholders? Whether it's a Hillsborough County Sheriff's deputy, if it's a small business owner, if it's faculty members at the University of South Florida, or it's the executive director of Mosey. We've had these conversations with them. Next slide, please. So a little bit about some of that breakdown that we've had getting out there. What are those walk-in talks? Those walk-in talks are basically us going through some of those areas that you saw outlined, and what are your feelings on the ground? We were out there in spring. It wasn't too bad. If you're out there right now, it's hot, right? So that's an issue that we have out there. There's not a lot of shade that goes on out there. If you miss your bus, you're going to be standing out there for a while waiting for your bus in the elements, things such as those. Again, with those stakeholder interviews, we had those comments of what do you see for this community now? What do you see in the future? What are some of those constraints and opportunities? Next slide, please. So here's just a little bit of that. Here's just some of that feedback that you have out there about what the community said as some of those opportunities and some of those constraints. And we see a lot of positivity out there in a diverse community, diversity of businesses that are out there. It is a pro-business environment that is in this area. There's a lot of opportunity. Whether you are a small business owner or you are a Fortune 500 company, they're both right there side by side. A lot of people talked about that they enjoy being able to have all of this within a walk or within a short bike ride. But there was issues with getting there at times because not everybody has the same opportunities to avail themselves to a sidewalk or to avail themselves to safe biking due to lighting and other constraints that they have. Next slide, please. Just a little bit more how we talked about safety, where we talk about issues with some of the existing conditions you out there. We also had some of those folks with the business communities talking about some of those regulations where they, again, had conversations to say, I have a land use that's split. Half of me is in the city of Tampa. Half of me is in the county. I have an issue where I've got to talk to the city about some parking. I got to talk to the county about some of that parking. So there may be opportunities that we can say, yeah, you still have issues where you have to go in front of the county and you have to go in front of the city, but perhaps it's the same parking regulation. Perhaps you don't have two different regulations. They actually have the same. Perhaps there's issues of that with green space, with stormwater. There's a variety of different things that we can look at, not to say that it is a end-all to save all, but it actually does allow for some specific items that can be addressed. Certainly density and intensity of use is another one that we can talk about. Next slide, please. So this goes into a little bit about what you'll find online in that tech memo right now. These are some of the opportunities and constraints that you see here. One of the things that a lot of people talked about, which is kind of surprising as a constraint, is the CSX right-of-way. Why? Because it blocks off the community. If you walk in this community, you can't get there from here because of that CSX right-of-way that's there. Also, if you're a kid, you might be on that CSX right-of-way because it is an area where you can ride a bike if you have a dirt bike or something like that running down there. There's not a lot of train activities that are on there, but the business community will tell you it's an asset. That industrial park knows that, right? There are still trains that are operating there to the Yingling facility today to actually deliver wheat, grain, barley, and other things so that they can make their adult beverages there at Yingling. In the future, maybe that's turned into something else as a commodity, as an asset for this community. But somebody else will tell you they've actually lost something. That's part of what community planning is all about. You'll also see a tremendous amount of redevelopment that is occurring. We spoke a little bit about it. Mosey is undergoing some conversations right now about redevelopment. The University of South Florida, I'm a graduate there of my master's degree. When I was there 20 years ago, it certainly didn't look like it does today. We didn't even talk about football on that campus with what they're doing today. The mall, I worked at the mall at Burdines. That's gone. That mall has totally redeveloped itself. There is student apartments that are going on now on Fowler Avenue on the west side of Bruce B. Down 30th. something that, again, 20 years ago when I was up there would have never happened. All of the student housing was thought of to continue going north towards New Tampa. So there's a lot of redevelopment that has occurred. What does that mean? Fowler Avenue is changing. It is changing into an urban corridor. Next slide, please. This just shows a little bit of some of the things that are touched in that technical memorandum that is available online. Again, it's one of the deliverables. Next slide, please. This is the vision that we have as a draft vision for this area. That vision is pretty clear, pretty cut and dry. There's nothing out of the ordinary about that. Why should it be? It is something that you should actually drive as a vision for any area of Hillsborough County or the city of Tampa, when one is the third largest job cluster, when one is a densifying community. Next slide, please. So what are some of those things to actually see that vision fulfilled? Well, it's cohesion. It's collaborative community and one of identity. It's to improve mobility and connectivity through this area. It is to improve safety in this area. Again, to encourage redevelopment that revitalizes the area. These are all things that we've briefly mentioned. And again, displacement. That is something that we heard a lot from people. There's a lot of naturally occurring affordable housing in this area. There's a lot of rental in this area. And so we really need to find ways that we can stabilize what happens when we do have large-scale redevelopment comes in, and we can look for ways to minimize displacement in this area. Next slide, please. So a little bit of what we're looking at, what the consultant is looking at, what the technical advisory committee is looking at, and what staff at unincorporated Hillsborough County and the city of Tampa are looking at. These are basically some zones, if you will, some districts, and they do include the city of Tampa in unincorporated Hillsborough County. Next slide, please. So a little bit that you can do where you can break down within those districts where we're looking at mixture of uses in that mixed use district. We need to stabilize densities and intensities across that area. We need to have a shared land use mix. So in that industrial area, there are some apartments, there are some mixed uses that are in there. That's a conversation that we need to have. Do we need to encourage a mixture of uses into that industrial park, or is it an industrial park? Creating urban design standards. It's an urbanizing corridor. We should treat it as an urban corridor, and we should have design standards that encourage that movement of people, goods, and services along the corridor. Community supportive infrastructure. Well, that's an easy one right there. Mobility and connectivity. That goes into that support of that infrastructure. Managing the buildings, form and placement, back to design, as well as implementation, which is something that comes next out of all of this. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about what we do next. In September, we will actually have a conversation with those folks who were in the stakeholder interviews, who were in some of our walk-in talks, and who came out to our original community meeting that we had at the mall. And basically, we want to run some of these recommendations through to them with a little bit more meat on the bones. We will then go back out to the community as a whole, most likely in October or in early fall. Next slide, please. This is me, and that's Alvaro. Next slide, please. And again, we thank you for your time. And I can now turn this over to Ms. Elizabeth Watkins with the TPO, who will actually bring up the action item unless this board has other direction. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Real quick, thank you for that presentation. And you said it best. This is becoming an urban environment. My friend and I said this recently when we were out on Fowler, and he came down to Tampa 30 years ago to go to USF, and I was at USF later on, but he said it looks the same. It looks like Fowler looks like it did when I moved here in '93. But although the road looks the same, the environment around it is changing, as you've already gone into detail, and we need to update the road, that main corridor, to accommodate the changes that are coming to the area. So very good presentation. You touched on everything, so thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Craig?
Yes, thanks. Craig Fox again with DOT. I just want to confirm that the design limits are the same exact as the study limits. So it's from Florida Avenue to 56th Street in regards to that. Thanks.
Thank you. Elizabeth, good morning.
Good morning. Elizabeth Watkins, TPO staff. So the action before you today is consideration of approving a draft letter that staff has put together as a letter of comment on the FDOT PD&E. As you heard from both of the speakers today, there's a lot of exciting and important work happening on this important and complex corridor. FDOT will be selecting their preferred alternative soon, probably in the next few weeks. So there is a letter in your packet for FDOT to consider as they select that preferred alternative. In summary, what that letter says is it supports the dedicated transit lane and safety investments that FDOT is proposing. It additionally requests that the design speed for the transit corridor, so from Florida to Bruce B. Downs, the design speed be no higher than 35 miles per hour for safety purposes, to just protect transit users and multimodal users of the facility. It also encourages DOT to reconsider looking at that context classification. As Councilmember Maniscalco pointed out, it is urbanizing, it is an urban corridor, and we would recommend that that context classification be changed to reflect that desired development pattern along the corridor. So that's just a brief summary of that letter. I'd be happy to take any questions, but the action we're seeking today is for the board's approval to transmit that letter of comment to the department.
Thank you. Mayor Ross?
I do have a question. I read this yesterday, but for everybody's edification, can you clarify in the letter, are we recommending to DOT the dedicated transit lane, is it the one that's the curbside or the one that's in the center of the road?
That's a great question. So the letter doesn't explicitly say the bat lane like you described or the fixed median guideway, but the letter does describe discouraging choice of that frontage road given the complexities of maybe not aligning with that future development vision and also not being may have some safety considerations for bike and pedestrians for the frontage concept. So it does discourage that, but it doesn't promote the bat lane or the fixed median guideway.
Commissioner Kemp?
Yes, so just to have clarification, and I don't know, maybe this is a question for DOT. So does DOT just announce the preferred alternative next month?
Yes, once the department selects alternative, we can report back to the TPO with that.
And I would just say, I just feel like there's never been, honestly, at the MPO, TPO, nor at HART, a really significant presentation of the impacts and, you know, the effects of what we choose here. I agree with others. It's a very urbanized area. I've been involved with Mosey also as a board member for quite some time, and have looked at the development, and I worked at the university for 10 years, so I'm very familiar with the area and the commute at that time. And I'll just say, I feel like we've never talked about it as vis-a-vis what HART, their capacity, or I know we could, and you know, we've not had the discussion at the HART board. I can say that for certain, nor a presentation. But also here, I never felt as though we actually got the alternatives presented and had a discussion about ridership and the impacts and everything that would have. I would personally, I just think to choose anything but the median guideway for the future would be a real disappointment at this point in our evolution and the evolution of Fowler Avenue and what we're seeing about putting densities up there, to not make that investment and do that. I just, you know, and we haven't really had serious discussion about it, but the bat lanes, you know, where we'd have cars turning in, I don't know how many places, and the buses stopping behind them, and not a dedicated lane would be extraordinary, for me, extraordinarily disappointing, and I feel like isn't much of a vision for the future if we're going to put all that investment in redoing that road. But with that said, I don't know, maybe somebody would like to further comment.
Hi, Justin
Councilman-
Willits with Hart, for the record. Part of the impetus for the PD&E was that our arterial BRT study only contemplated a bat lane and a median guideway. We didn't have the frontage lane concept. So part of the PD&E process was to bring that up in further analysis. Our tentative position, we're going to deliver a letter from Hart very soon, is that we'd like to work toward the interim condition as a bat lane while we figure out the best median or frontage lane concept for the future. The problem is the transit element of that is going to be a heavy capital cost, whether that comes from the feds. It's probably not going to come from our local ad valorem. So the interim condition of a bat lane is probably the best short-term outcome while we look to identify funding to construct a bat lane or a median. The right-of-way impacts, I'm sorry, for a frontage or a median, the right-of-way impacts of the frontage lane system, the right-of-way acquisition, I think, is somewhere around $50 million, and that's not a cost that I would personally be advocating for Hart to carry, and I don't think that we're going to be in a position to ask FDOT to carry that whole cost either. So I'm going to work with Craig here over the next few weeks as they select their preferred alternative. Our preference is tentatively a median, unless there are some operational impacts that we can review that convince us that it's operationally superior from a safety perspective for Hart to operate the frontage lane system. But that's being considered by DOT, and we're confident that the alternative they select for the ultimate build is going to be the best thing for Hart too, and then we'll work towards identifying funding to build the system.
That's good. I appreciate that. I just think I couldn't be involved in more transportation and transit issues and land use issues than I am. I mean, T-BARTA, TPO, TMA, just every committees, anything I get Hart, and this is one of my getting us from USF to downtown has been my #1 priority, to see how we can move there. I think it's very important. It is, we all know that going from West Shore or the airport to downtown is one leg of things for transit, and the other main thing is getting from downtown to USF and how that's done. But to not even before this have had that much information or that much public discussion in any committee or place, I find just very disappointing, and we wouldn't have had that if I hadn't asked. But to me, it should just be something that we would have been focused on and had many conversations about this on any of the public boards and through the community and input from the community on this. So I know that there were these stakeholder groups elsewhere. I actually went to a meeting discussing this in 2014. No, I guess it was 2014 and then 2015 and it seemed like it was something that was going to be done imminently at the time. So, it's just, I'll just say I very much, I appreciate that. I very much think that we need to be working on some kind of centerline guideway. And I wish, knowing those impacts, we had had more discussion and more thoughtful discussion about this. And I know there's barriers that have caused that not to happen in some ways, but I'll just express that.
Thank you so much, Beth. And then I'll come to you.
Just real briefly, under your leadership, we did have a policy committee workshop about this earlier, and these same 3 alternatives, which were just sketched out at the time, were presented. I think it's been very challenging for a variety of reasons to say anything conclusively about the different options before this. One of the issues being the outstanding, inadequacy of funding for transit, and whether that was going to be resolved or not. So I think where we are right now is we have a good interim strategy, also with a longer-term vision for a more transformative change.
And I can, just to respond, I just can totally respect that, and this isn't a criticism of you or anyone else, to be clear. However, we had endless conversations about this regional thing without having any money or any view of money, and to the, like, it's just, you know, I've had to sit there at 3-hour meetings about automated helicopters and, you know, gondolas and like to excruciating details. And this is a real thing. And to have, you know, so little public discussion, I think, is just disappointing.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Kemp. Councilman Clendenin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, kind of to add on a little bit to the previous discussion, as we're reinventing this corridor, which is, you know, a critical corridor for the metropolitan area with the important medical facilities, the university, and honestly, just available land to increase density for housing and mixed development. I think if we don't do it right the first time, it'll be a huge missed opportunity for us. And I'm a little apprehensive for that interim approach, you know, because it's you know, we know what happens. What that happens is sometimes the best scenarios fall by the wayside. So I agree with Commissioner Kemp on the proposal. I think that as you look at a visionary plan for this corridor, would be that median approach, and it'd be transformative. Also improve safety along that corridor, as well as expeditiously moving people. And with our longer range vision plan for moving people from the downtown corridor to USF, I think it plays very well as far as laying the groundwork to make that happen. So I really encourage, you know, barring any insurmountable barriers, to look strongly at that option as a first proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ross.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve or accept the study and approve the letter of comment.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposes? That motion is carried. Thank you so much.
Excuse me, Chair?
Yes.
Who made the second?
Clendon.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, we'll move right along. Wade Reynolds. Okay, thank you. Good morning. We have about 30, right at 30 minutes left, so we still have to get to the executive report, but go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief. Wade Reynolds, TPO staff. This is the Hillsborough County Bicycle Network evaluation. Next slide, please. This was a collaboration between the TPO and Hillsborough County Public Works with the objective of evaluating the existing network, establishing a data-driven process to prioritize segments, and demonstrating project development through 4 concept plans. And the goal was to create a repeatable process to identify locations for improvements for existing and new bicycle facilities. Next slide, please. So phase 1 was data analysis and the prioritization methodology, and I'll get into this a little bit deeper in the next slide. But the risk factors were 30%, the exposure factors 30%, and the network factors 40%. That was weighted towards the network just to have a greater ability to build off the facilities we have and not have facilities that stop and end, but rather create a unified network. Next slide, please. The risk factors included the crash history, the posted speed limit, the volume of traffic, the total number of lanes, and the presence of lighting along the facility. The exposure factors included activity generators, the residential density, and the proximity to bus stops, and whether this was an equity or social justice area. The residential density was based on the 2045 socioeconomic data. There was some concern on the CAC that did not take into account all of the new development in South County in particular, but it was based on the potential for 2045 density in that in locations throughout the county. And the network factors, whether there was an existing facility present, the presence of sidewalks, the connectivity, and the context classification of the roadway. Next slide, please. So the prioritization and corridor selection, we then scored these into low, moderate, high, and very high priorities. The red would be the very high on this map, while the green would be the lower priorities. Next slide, please. So the selected corridors for further study, these are conceptual plans, are Waters Avenue from Sheldon Road to the Veterans Expressway, Causeway Boulevard from Falkenberg Road to Brandon Parkway, Shell Point Road from US 41 to 24th Street Northeast, and Balm Riverview Road from Boyette Road to McMullen Road. Next slide, please. For each selected corridor, we reviewed the existing conditions, identified improvements, and developed these concept plans. Next slide, please. So Waters Avenue, it is about a little over a 2-mile segment. It is mostly 45 miles per hour with a total of 6 to 7 lanes, handles over 50,000 vehicles per day, and has 2 transit routes on it. Next slide, please. We grouped the proposals into Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 proposals, or improvements, with Tier 3 being the most costly and Tier 1 being the least, with improvements such as signage and roadway paint would be in more the Tier 1 segments. Next slide, please. So in this scenario, this is the existing condition with 6 lanes and a bike lane and existing sidewalks. Next slide, please. So the proposed concept included buffered bike lanes with the option for vertical delineators and zipper curb separators. That is accomplished by narrowing the roadway lanes, and there are additional proposals for mid-block crossings, as well as some lighting improvements and other improvements along the corridor. Next slide, please. Causeway Boulevard and Lumsden Road on the easternmost end. This is from Falkenberg to Brandon Parkway. Brandon Parkway is where the Expressway Authority's small trail facility is there at the end of the expressway. Next slide, please. The improvements here, number 1, crossing I-75, we did have 2 proposals. One would be to work with the existing bridge structure to make it possible for pedestrians and cyclists to cross. There is also a cost estimate for a separated bridge proposal in there. And then this calls for separated pathways, wider pathways on either side of the roadway due to the speed, volume, and number of lanes in this facility. Next slide, please. And this would be the existing facility with showing those 7 to 8 lanes with sidewalks along most of the corridor. And next slide, please. Then the proposed facility with those shared use paths. And next slide, please. Moving on to Shell Point Road. This is a 2-lane facility. The speed it is almost 2 miles. The speed limit is 40 miles per hour. This facility terminates at the South Coast Greenway on the easternmost end, and the pathway extends down Shell Point Road for a ways before it ends. There is an existing project in the CIP to repair sidewalks along this corridor. The proposal is for completion of that shared use path along the north side of the road, some mid-block crossings, and completion of the sidewalk along the southern side of this roadway. Next slide, please. Again, these are the tiered improvements ranging from signage and striping on the Tier 1 to lighting and more substantive improvements in Tier 2 and Tier 3. Next slide, please. And this is the existing facility with incomplete sidewalks on the south side, which would be the right, and the drainage facility, and a mix of sidewalks and the shared use path on the north side, the left here. Next slide, please. And this would be the proposed concept, showing that completed sidewalk on the south and the shared use path on the north. Next slide, please. The final corridor that we studied was Balm Riverview Road, from Boyette Road to McMullen Road. This is a two-lane facility, 45 miles per hour along most of the facility. There are no there is no transit service along this facility. There are sidewalks on both sides, and the right-of-way is limited in some areas of this corridor. Next slide, please. So those Tier 1 improvements, or Tier 1, 2, and 3 improvements, the main improvements here are the inclusion of a shared use path along the east side of the corridor, and additional lighting improvements really round out this corridor. Next slide, please. So the existing proposal showing the two-lane facility with sidewalks. And next slide, please. The shared use path along the east side there. So next slide, please. So the committee actions, we did receive a recommendation of approval from the Technical Advisory Committee, Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and Livable Roadways Committee. The CAC voted 7-8 not to recommend in June. I did meet with a couple of the CAC members in between that and their August meeting, and I presented a much more in-depth review of the methodology at the August meeting last week of the CAC, but they did not take any additional action. So with that, next slide. The recommended action by staff today is for approval of the bicycle network evaluation, and I'll be happy to take any questions or comments you may have.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Commissioner Kemp?
Do we have information on what the issues were about the non-approval?
From the CAC?
Yes.
There were several issues. I think the cost of some of the proposed improvements, which I'll say do not all have to be taken at once. They are itemized and can be done as a whole or piecemeal. The methodology, there was concern among one member about including equity factors in the decision-making process. There was concern by another committee member who I did meet with about whether the points of interest or residential density included the areas that are rapidly developing throughout the county. They do. We use the 2045 socioeconomic data for that. So those are three of the issues that we tried to address.
Thank you. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the receipt report, say aye. Any opposes? That motion is carried. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Chair, excuse me, who was the second?
Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have now the Executive Director report. Beth. Good.
Thank you so much.
Still in morning with about 17 minutes left. Thank you. Right on time.
Yes, ma'am. We will keep this moving. I just want to give a shout out to Hillsborough County. It was a great opportunity for us to assist them in exploring what's the appropriate bicycle facility in different contexts around the county. And those are some go-tos that, that we can use over the coming years. A couple of highlights, September 13th, since we are going to be having our executive director interviews, just want to make sure it's on everybody's calendar, that we will not hold the policy committee meeting at 8:30 that day. We'll convene the board at 9 a.m. The Tampa Bay TMA Leadership Group met in June and had an initial conversation about some of the topics that will need to be explored after there is a memorandum of understanding to explore merging the MPOs. So a number of different issues. We've obviously brought them up here before. The issues were starting to be fleshed out in terms of some different choices and asking for feedback from that Tri-County group's membership. The group did not get through all of the discussion on that, and instead asked that we share that presentation and those choices out to all of the members of all 3 MPOs. And so you do have a survey in email. We've gotten back 4 responses from this board on that survey so far. You do have a couple more weeks. I'm going to send it to you again just to make sure it's in your inbox, because we definitely want to make sure that this board's preferences are represented. This is not a binding vote. This is just an initial, what looks good, what do we want to take off the table kind of thing. Also, I want to highlight for members of the public who are watching this morning that there is also a public survey about the merger concept that is live right now through the 20th of August. And the easiest way to get to that, if you don't have the board agenda electronically in front of you with the link that you can click on, if you don't have that, go to suncoasttpa.org. That stands for Suncoast Transportation Planning Alliance.org. And the survey is front and center. Probably take you 5 minutes to take it. We also had a strategic plan joint board workshop with the Planning Commission and the River Board in June, and I really want to thank you all who were able to come out and participate in that. One of the things that popped out to me was the continuing need to coordinate our transportation investments and our housing planning. Another thing that really jumped out was the need for collaboration across the jurisdictions. We had a lot of talk about that, and there were a number of ideas surfaced about how we can do a better job of, perhaps leveraging all of our efforts by collaborating more. One of the things that I brought up is the policy committee is an opportunity to talk about joint projects every month. And so I had just a discussion with the chair of our policy committee afterwards about changing the format for those meetings to a less huge table meeting like this one where we're all kind of talking to somebody who's way over there. The policy committee is a smaller group, but having those policy committee meetings in a conference room on an ongoing basis, they'll still be live streamed. They'll still have public access to that. But maybe just making this more of an interactive and let's start bringing forward some topics where we think that we might be able to partner with each other. Safe Streets for All grant, that's a federal grant that is in your Unified Planning Work Program to pursue that grant. Last year, we supported the county and the city of Tampa in their grant applications, and they were able to get the largest single amount for construction of safety improvements of any community in the country. This year, we are partnering with the University of Central Florida, who reached out to us to do some data analysis. So we're focusing on the speed management action plan and implementing that using low-cost strategies that involve signal timing. There is also signal intersection data that's available now that can tell you not just the average speed on any given segment, but how fast are the cars as they're driving up to it. So on some of our widely spaced intersection roads, people are driving fast up to the signal and then stopping and waiting for quite a period of time. And that averages out to look like a moderate speed when actually the behavior is we've got speeding and then stopping. So we're going to be able to dig into that a little bit more if we are able to get this grant application. And then finally, just a little bit of good news, that speed management action plan was recognized by Federal Highway as a best practice. And we also have several of the planning studies that you've seen over the last year now being presented at our statewide annual planning conference in September. So I want to thank you, all of you, for all of your leadership on these important topics.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilwoman?
No, I just have new business.
Okay. Any old business?
I do, Madam Chair.
Yes.
ever since the confusion about the grant that had happened, I've been taking the time to read the all of the addendums, and there's actually a page of addendums missing from what's printed out here, and there's a section B, and there's many fact sheets on there, and one of them is a fact sheet. It's called Fact Sheet 301, and I was surprised that it wasn't presented today with the Fowler Avenue study because it seems disjointed that it wasn't. One disadvantage that this board will have that only the county commissioners would know is that a couple of months ago, we approved a $55 million CDD on the very end of 301 before you go into Pasco County. And this improvement that's listed on this fact sheet, when you read the existing conditions and the traffic and crash data that was extrapolated from 2015 to 19, it's extremely concerning. Almost 500 crashes in that time frame. Over 50% of them were serious injury or fatalities, 16 of them being fatalities. What do we need to do? This is something that I guess used to be on the tip and was removed from the tip, and so that's why I'm considering it old business rather than new business. So what do we need to do to hear from FDOT? Specifically, it looks like they just wrapped up, according to this is on page 36 and 37 out of 70 of your backup for the board members. Looks like they just completed their second public hearing a couple of days ago on August the 1st. So what can we do to have them come and speak to us about the outcomes of those public hearings so we can take action on moving this forward? Because I would much rather this improvement, especially as it heads in, like this is gonna kind of end at Thonotosassa, but right before Temple Terrace, and we just heard how much of an big economic growth your area is gonna get. These 2,000, I think it's 2,200 homes might be coming through, a majority of them through your city. I mean, it's a public safety issue. So what do we need to do to get this presented so we can take action on it?
Beth?
Sure, that's an excellent question. And so the US 301 PD&E study, and this is US 301 in the northern part of the county, this was presented to the board last year. There was an extensive discussion about the safety problems on this road. The board did send a letter of comment and supported a number of those safety recommendations. They were then added to the priority list for the Transportation Improvement Program. They've now been funded. So this is actually a fairly accelerated process for addressing those safety concerns. Have heard from DOT that they would like to provide a report back to this board about how they've responded to the board's letter sent last year. And we just have had a tight agenda. I wanted to make sure that we had enough time on the agenda today for the board to have substantive discussion about the director recruitment process. But we do have that on our list of topics we'd like to be able to, allow DOT to come back to the board and report back about how they address the board's comments.
Yeah, because the TIP meeting, it was my first one, and it was, for me, very disorganized, and I had asked a question about all of the different line items of 301 that were on there, and I was thinking about that $55 million CDD that we had approved that none of you would know about, more than likely. And this has those 12-foot shared paths along a huge nature corridor for all of the bicyclists out there. It'd be an improvement of their quality of living. So yeah, whatever we can do to get them here. I don't know if we need to take action or if Madam Chair can just add it to an agenda.
We can add it for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mayor Ross?
Thank you. I'll be brief. I know we're running out of time, but thank you, Commissioner, for bringing that up. And the conversations that Ms. Alden alluded to that we had at the workshop recently were to possibly take similar things like this up at the policy committee, because as you all know, sometimes the policy committee, we meet and we're either hearing lengthy presentations on things that we don't really care about, or, and so it's a great opportunity for the county commission, the cities, Tampa's there, Plant City, Temple Terrace, to kind of talk about these things and say, what are these projects have components that touch a lot of people. These are, and then maybe we drive getting those things on the agenda because we think they're worthy of the whole board having a discussion. So just think about that in terms of where the policy committee could go in terms of, what we do.
Thank you. Seeing new business, Councilwoman Hurtag.
Thank you. The City of Tampa has been coordinating with HART to implement a new premium circulator bus service that would connect downtown to Tampa Heights. This new bus service would mirror the proposed Tampa streetcar extension, providing a premium connection from the streetcar line terminus at Whiting Street up the Florida Avenue Tampa Street corridor to the Armature Works area and potentially beyond. This service would also be an interim step toward HART's planned downtown to USF BRT as recommended in the HART Arterial BRT study. The City of Tampa has committed $400,000 a year for 2 years to fund the new service, and the City and HART have been coordinating with FDOT to secure an additional $400,000 a year match. In order to be eligible for FDOT funding during this funding cycle, the project must be added to the TPO's priority list. So I would like to make a motion to direct staff to bring forward a TIP amendment for board consideration to add the Florida Avenue Tampa Street Circulator project to the TPO's list of priority projects, Table 2 of the TIP, based on the adopted prioritization criteria for real choices when not driving.
Beth, you want to answer that? Thank you.
That was a motion. So is there a second before we go further? I just made a motion.
I know, but second, but do you need a motion?
So we can certainly do whatever is the board's pleasure. The list of priority projects was due to the Department of Transportation at the beginning of this month. So we've already missed that deadline. The department is in an accelerated work program cycle this year because of the legislature convening in January. Even if we were to be able to add this to the list of priority projects at this point, it's unlikely from what I understand from, and I've asked this question of the DOT staff because I actually surfaced this topic with the HART staff and with the Tampa staff earlier, and I asked them earlier if they could possibly bring this forward. We're past that point right now. In order to add a project to the priority list, this board would hold a public hearing. We would provide 30 days notice of that public hearing. So we'd be talking about holding a hearing in mid-September at the absolute soonest. That is well into this DOT work program cycle. And even if we were able to get it onto the priority list, there probably is not the funding this year in the work program cycle to be able to add dollars to it right now. But if you add it to the priority list in the next regular update, which is in the spring, it can then be incorporated in the following work program cycle, and you can request of DOT for any dollars in any earlier year so that you don't have to wait to the end of the 5 years to get the funding. And I'm happy to talk with you more about this offline. I've talked with your staff about this offline, and we're going to continue to work with you, try to make sure that we're not missing any opportunities to fund this project.
The reason this is coming up is because this is budget cycle time, and the one thing that we've heard a lot about is transit and transportation, and this with the possibility of, we're looking at additional revenue, and this is the one thing that people have certainly asked for. So this was the recommendation of staff for me to come and ask for this. So
there is one other option, which I also brought up to your staff. You currently have the streetcar extension on the priority list. If you took the streetcar extension PD&E and you changed the locally preferred alternative to be a rubber tire solution, even if it's just the interim locally preferred alternative, if you were to do that, then it would already be on your priority list. But as I said, I don't know if there is funding this year in this work program cycle to make it worth doing that.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'll talk to you more offline, but I really think that, again, I want to get this started like as quickly as possible. So if it's doing it now for spring, that's fine with me. So my motion still stands.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Hurtak, second by, was it Commissioner Kemp? You say, okay. Yes, Mayor Ross.
I just want to be clear on this. I'm going to vote no on this because it seems, but I don't want the assumption to be made that I'm against it. I just don't understand it completely. And in light of what I just heard, the back and forth, I don't understand the timing and I don't understand when I vote no, I don't want Tampa to think that I'm not in favor of it. I don't know yet. I would be happy to hear more about this at a presentation because in general, I'm very supportive of building these kind of opportunities because I think if we're ever going to get to transit, it's going to be that we build legs and build upon what we build. And so when I vote no, I don't want people to assume, oh, he's anti-transit. I'm not. I just don't understand this enough to vote in favor of it today.
If I could respond, I completely understand, but I'm just asking for a tip amendment. And to be honest, the reason this didn't come forward before is because we did not have the continuity with Hart and with what was going on now, and we feel really confident now with the conversations we're having. I know it's completely off cycle, but right now we were not in a spot 2 months ago to have this conversation. We just simply weren't.
So just a brief clarification. This can't be done by tip amendment. A change to the priority list has a different standard for public engagement under the TPO's adopted public participation plan. And so that's why I was saying we have to have a public hearing and a 30-day review period.
Okay.
Commissioner Kemp?
Yeah, Commissioner Hurtak, I don't know if it would be to bring it back to just discuss the possibilities and understand. I think that might be where we could go, and then it could be put on a timetable. I would also, I don't know how the city budget works, but at least when I initially became commissioner, I got it in the budget for the county to give an additional $2.5 million for 2 different years to support transit, and I had named 4 routes and everything, and that was like in our budget, and we started doing it right away. So maybe in terms of your budget, and I don't mean to speak to your process or anything, just reserving money for now, maybe it could even be used at a later time if this doesn't happen right away or the timetable. I'm just...
Yeah, thank you. And so I guess I'll just change that.
Want to withdraw your motion?
Yeah.
And come back with a presentation?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
Thank you. Okay, anything else to come before the board? Thanks, everyone, for participating. Have a good day. We adjourn. Yes, Councilwoman.
We were keeping our interview papers, and we have to turn those in because they're public records. So if anyone has them, I wanted everyone to remember.